Good evening, and welcome to the latest happenings inside our federal machine.
It's Monday, March the 2nd, 2026, and here's what's happening today in the swamp. The conflict with Iran continues. Most recently, it appears that 2 Iranian drones bombed the U.S. Embassy in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, which is still developing as of this recording. And President Trump delivers another address to the nation today, as well as holding a Medal of Honor ceremony where he spoke more on the Iranian conflict. And also, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth and Secretary of State Marco Rubio both speak separately to the media over the ongoing Iranian conflict. 3 F-15 fighter jets were shot down by friendly fire in Kuwait. The pilots were okay, and we even have footage of the strike and the condition of the American pilots. U.S. Central Command continues to provide public updates today on the ongoing conflict, and we will get into the updates from CENTCOM. Also, Iranians around the world continue celebrations both abroad and here in the U.S. The U.S. State Department issued an urgent message to all Americans in the Middle East to leave the region as soon as possible. And Representative Thomas Massie, he's in hot water again, this time for dropping a poll on X asking the public how the Iranian conflict should be handled. And it's alleged that he deleted the poll when the clear answer was trust the president. And we'll focus primarily on other topics regarding the conflict tonight, but there's a few other things that happened today that we'll check out, so don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for daily updates you probably won't find in the mainstream, and if you drop a comment, I may read it during tomorrow's episode. Every article I come across is linked in the description below, and the highlight clips from tonight will begin dropping on this channel tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Eastern. So we're going to start right here with ACYN. CNN, a strike on the U.S. Embassy in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia just moments ago by 2 suspected Iranian drones. So this is just breaking. This post just came out about an hour ago as of this recording. I tried to look around for other information. There was footage of what appeared to be a massive fireball that looked like it was really close to some, what appeared to be like an exit ramp from an interstate or something like that. And what I was told was that that footage is fake. It's not real, even though that the mainstream news is reporting that that's the actual fire as to what's happening in the embassy. But when you look at the footage, it's clearly not the embassy. It looks like a truck fire on the side of an interstate or something. So if you see anything like that with regard to the U.S. Embassy in Riyadh, some fireball on the side of a highway, it ain't the embassy. It's on the side of the highway, for crying out loud. So anyway, this is going to be from CNN, so let's take a look at this.
Welcome back to the special edition of Outfront War with Iran. And we have more breaking news this hour in this intense night of strikes. A strike on the U.S. Embassy in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, just moments ago by 2 suspected Iranian drones. Obviously, Riyadh in the center of Saudi Arabia, far, far away from Iran, a lot of open desert there to go past, but that is what's happened. We do not have any reports at this moment yet of any injuries, but it comes as the U.S. Embassy in Riyadh is telling all American citizens in Saudi Arabia to shelter in place immediately. And that alert is going out just right now as I'm speaking.
The embassy was abandoned,
signaling a potential fast-moving threat unfolding right now in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, so that's the very latest. I mean, this is still fresh breaking news. From what I heard, the embassy had already been evacuated of Americans, so apparently there aren't any there. Also, the same goes with in Baghdad, the embassy or the consulate, the U.S. consulate or the embassy, whichever one in Baghdad it was, attempted to be breached by rioters, and I believe that Americans had already been evacuated from Iran. And the same with Pakistan. That happened over the weekend. 22 Pakistanis killed trying to breach into the American consulate, and they were met by gunfire from security forces, allied, if not American security, and they took out a couple dozen of them. So that's the latest as far as that goes. And this is from President Donald J. Trump on his X account, and I'm sure he posted the same speech all over social media. I believe the president even has a TikTok account now, so I'm sure this is going to be shown all over. This is the latest updated, posted 9 hours ago at exactly 11:20 a.m. today.
Over the past 36 hours, the United States and its partners have launched Operation Epic Fury, one of the largest, most complex, most overwhelming military offensives the world has ever seen. Nobody's seen anything like it. We have hit hundreds of targets in Iran, including Revolutionary Guard facilities, Iranian air defense systems. Just now it was announced that we knocked out 9 ships plus their naval building, all in a matter of literally minutes.
Okay, so it's 9. I'm going to take the president's word for that. I do have a post at some point in this episode where it's going to say that 11 were taken out from the Iranian Navy, including an aircraft carrier, which we're going to get to.
Iran's formerly supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, is dead. This wretched and vile man had the blood of hundreds and even thousands of Americans on his hands and was responsible for the slaughter of countless thousands of innocent people all across many countries. Last night, all over Iran, the voices of the Iranian people could be heard cheering and celebrating in the streets when his death was announced. The entire military command is gone as well, and many of them want to surrender into saving their lives. They want immunity. They're calling by the thousands. Combat operations continue at this time in full force, and they will continue until all of our objectives are achieved. We have very strong objectives. They could have done something 2 weeks ago, but they just couldn't get there. Earlier today, CENTCOM shared the news that 3 U.S. military service members have been killed in action. As one nation, we grieve for the true American patriots who have made the ultimate sacrifice.
Okay, for the record, the military today is saying, and again, this was 9 hours ago, I have heard that it is up to 4 now, that there's been a 4th soldier that has lost his life.
For our nation, even as we continue the righteous mission for which they gave their lives, we pray for the full recovery of the wounded and send our immense love and eternal gratitude to the families of the fallen. And sadly, there will likely be more. Before it ends, that's the way it is. Likely be more, but we'll do everything possible where that won't be the case. But America will avenge their deaths and deliver the most punishing blow to the terrorists who have waged war against basically civilization. They have waged war against civilization itself. Our resolve, and likewise that of Israel, has never been stronger. America is now again the richest, most powerful nation in the world by far. But the only reason we enjoy the quality of life that we do and the freedom and security is we have done things that others are unable to do. But it's because of warriors who are willing to lay down their lives to do battle with our enemies. And they do battle better than anybody. An Iranian regime armed with long-range missiles and nuclear weapons would be a dire threat to every American. We cannot allow a nation that raises terrorist armies to possess such weapons that would allow them to extort the world to their evil will. Not going to let it happen. We're not happening to us, and we're not going to let it happen to others. The United States has the strongest military the world has ever seen. I rebuilt our military in my first term. There's never been a military like we possess. And frankly, there's nobody even close, but we are now using that military for good. We want to have it for good purpose. We're undertaking this massive operation not merely to ensure security for our own time and place, but for our children and their children, just as our ancestors have done for us many, many years ago. This is the duty and the burden of a free people. These actions are right and they are necessary to ensure that Americans will never have to face a radical, bloodthirsty terrorist regime armed with nuclear weapons and lots of threats. For almost 50 years, these wicked extremists have been attacking the United States while chanting the slogan, "Death to America" or "Death to Israel," or both. They are the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. We are the world's greatest and most powerful nation, so we can do something about what they do. These intolerable threats will not continue any longer. I once again urge the Revolutionary Guard, the Iranian military, police, to lay down your arms and receive full immunity or face certain death. It will be certain death. Won't be pretty. I call upon all Iranian patriots who yearn for freedom to seize this moment, to be brave, be bold, be heroic, and take back your country. America is with you. I made a promise to you, and I fulfilled that promise. The rest will be up to you, but we'll be there to help. Thank you. God bless you to our incredible warriors, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
All right. Well, it sounded very similar to the speech yesterday and over the weekend. He gave a couple of these addresses over the weekend. The first was very early on Saturday morning at like 3:30 in the morning. And then he did another one on Sunday morning. So it didn't sound like a whole lot of new information was really divulged by President Trump. But yesterday there were reports that over 500 Iranian targets were hit by the U.S. military and also the Israeli IDF, their military, their Air Force, and the American military is expected to ramp up to stage 2, quote unquote, which will involve more widespread and vicious attacks against the Iranian regime. Not sure when that's going to happen. Obviously, they're not going to tell the public when they're going to start doing that. They're just going to simply just move on to the next step. Again, I don't even know if it's even called stage 2. I'm just calling it stage 2. I'm sure that there's a more official step-by-step process as to what they're working toward, the goal that they're working toward, which is to completely overthrow the Iranian regime, the Islamic Republic of Iran. And the U.S. government, President Trump, they instructed Iranian citizens to shelter inside and quote, "We will inform you when the time is at hand to take your country back," end quote. And again, not sure when that's going to be. It could be days, weeks, maybe even longer. Hopefully it won't take that long. But anyways, in the meantime, we've got this from U.S. Central Command. The Iranian regime's reckless use and proliferation of ballistic missiles have been a dangerous threat for decades. Now, at the president's direction, U.S. forces are eliminating the threat. Okay, so we don't have any sound. That's okay. You can hear the background music though, right? Maybe. It's probably a little too upbeat for this, but you know, it is what it is. So yeah, taking out some of their ballistic missile sites, some of their mobile ballistic missiles that they have parked, you know, in random spots all over the country. U.S. Central Command just knocking them all out. Iran continues to maliciously launch ballistic missiles indiscriminately, targeting military and civilian locations throughout the region. U.S. forces remain on the hunt to eliminate this threat. As the president has said, our resolve has never been stronger. Here we go with another one. Here, let me back up. I was full screen in there. Boom! Looks like, no, actually, I don't think even those guys made it. Good grief. Holy moly. Damn, another massive explosion. Dude, enormous explosions. Yeah, I probably shouldn't frame by frame slow it down and try to focus too much in on that because, you know, we are on YouTube at the end of the day. Got to keep things as clean as possible. Breaking number one, CENTCOM. U.S. forces are taking bold action to eliminate imminent threats posed by the Iranian regime. Strikes continue. So it looks like we're going to be without sound. Obviously, an Iranian fighter jet. What would that be? A MiG? Like a MiG-29 or something like that. So it looks like we're taking them out. Oh, those are drones. I definitely know what those are. I don't remember the names of them. But yeah, they kind of look like those little Concorde drones. Concorde-shaped drones. So yeah, they're taking out the facilities where they're housing drones. One by one, trying to get rid of any air power. There's another fighter jet on the ground. Knock that one out. And of course, it's going to repeat the video over again. So they're hard at work doing that, trying to get rid of the Iranian Air Force as best they can, or as quickly as they can. I think that eventually they're going to have that total ability to do so, if they haven't largely been wiped out already. There were reports of MiG fighter jets belonging to the Iranian Air Force that have been flying around Tehran, flying very slowly. So not sure why they're flying slowly, probably to conserve fuel maybe, or just kind of just fly around the city and just keep a lookout. However, if we were to send F-22s, for example, out to intercept them, the MiGs that they have, they only have like an 18-kilometer range when it comes to targeting another fighter jet and firing a missile at it, whereas the F-22s, for example, they've got a range of something like 125 kilometers, and they're stealth. So it's almost an unfair fight. It's a completely unfair fight. I think that the F-22s are like out of the year like 2077 or something compared to what they've got over in Iran. Anyway, the Iranian regime was warned. CENTCOM is now delivering swift and decisive action as directed. This one's got some sound. There you go. Some larger weaponry. Damn. Big missiles. Ground forces firing away. Oh, that was looks radar tower, right? Yep, trying to knock out as much as they can, as quickly as they can. Try to get this thing over with as quickly as we can, hopefully. This is from Fox News. New video from U.S. Central Command shows F-18 and F-35 fighter jets returning from combat operations over the skies of Iran as part of Operation Epic Fury. Here we go. Hell yeah, man. Awesome. Good footage. Always like seeing that footage. Aircraft carriers, fighter jets landing with some Kenny Loggins stuck in my head. Iran Spectator. U.S. has sunk the Iris Shahad Bagheri drone carrier. I'm sure I'm butchering that. That's all right. Iran's drone carrier Iris Shahad Bagheri has reportedly been hit by U.S. forces and is currently sinking in the Persian Gulf. This is a massive loss. So it from what I heard, it hadn't fully sunk yet. It might have actually sunk by now, but as of a few hours ago, there were still reports that it hadn't fully sunk, that it was listing, but it was still above water. They don't believe that it has any forward propulsion or any ability to move itself. It's just kind of a sitting duck at this point, but here's a little bit of footage. This is unconfirmed, by the way. Unconfirmed. This may not be the ship, just to be clear, because this isn't coming out as Central Command. This hadn't been fully confirmed by the government. So not even sure if that is indeed it. It doesn't look like it is. Just, I don't know, just looking at these objects here, comparing it to this tower here, it doesn't look consistent to me. I mean, I looked at this earlier and I don't think it's the same, but I don't know. I'll let you be the judge. But yeah, so I've read it hasn't quite sunk yet. But again, it might have by now. Ryan Rozbiani. Just now, Iran releases new footage of the Iranian UAV carrier Shahid Bagheri. It's the same ship. We see multiple combat-ready drones deployed on deck. Officials claim the platform is fully prepared to respond to any aggression against Iran. The Cold War goes on, and check out the date, back on January the 27th, before we even launched this assault against Iran. So let's take a look at the ship before it met its doom by the US forces.
روی ناو پهپاد بر شهید باقری هستیم.
اینا پهپادهای جاسم.
پهپادهای جاسم چه زیبا.
اینا پهپاد از هواپیمای جنگنده ساخت خودمون، طراحی خودمون، از اون جنگنده قاهر ساخته شده. نمونه کوچکتر از اون برای عملیات.
دوستان پهپاد از نزدیک. دوستان پهپاد من پهپاد.
اینا پهپاد M6.
دوستان پهپاد
M6. مهاجر 6. الان شما اونجا می‌بینید دیگه اینجا کام ظریف باندشه 185 متر طول باندشه. پهپاد به این صورت تیکاف میکنه. این هم ترمزاشه. پهپاد موقعی که میشینی سه تا ترمز میگیرنش. اینم آسانسورشه که
خدا قوت به نخبگان داخلی خودمون.
این یک کشتی تجاری
ما توی جهان و توی پهپاد 7 برای گفتن داریم.
And of course, reports are that it's been hit. Actually, it's been confirmed that it's been hit. It's been completely taken out of commission, and the U.S. military believes that this will be sunk if it hasn't been sunk already. And 2 days ago, the Iranian regime had 11 ships in the Gulf of Oman. Today, they have 0. The Iranian regime has harassed and attacked international shipping in the Gulf of Oman for decades. Those days are over. Freedom of maritime navigation has underpinned American and global economic prosperity for more than 80 years. The U.S. forces will continue to defend it. So just take note of the time. This was at 2:28 p.m. This was after Trump's address to the nation. So obviously there was a higher confirmation that now there's 11 ships compared to President Trump naming 9 in total. So here we go with this footage. Not sure if this is a ship. It looks like it might be a pier or something. But if this is a ship, it's a very big ship. But yeah, I think it might be something on the ground. That's just my guess. You know, I'm no expert on this footage. U.S. Central Command, the Iranian regime's false messaging machine continues to falsely claim that it has sunk a U.S. aircraft carrier. The truth, the only carrier that has been hit is the Shahid Bagheri, an Iranian drone carrier. U.S. forces struck the ship within hours of launching Operation Epic Fury. All right, and moving on to Hustle B. U.S. F-15 shot down over Kuwait. Female pilot ejects. What happens next was caught on camera. An American fighter jet goes down. The pilot ejects. Parachute deployed. When she hits the ground in Kuwait, civilians rush toward her. Are you safe? Everything good? Thank you for helping us. It's actually pretty nice to see. War in the sky, gratitude on the ground. When civilians run toward a downed pilot, what does that tell you? And also, look, of course, the people on the ground had no idea it was their own people that accidentally shot down our planes, because that's what happened. Kuwaiti forces, by accident, fired at 3 of our F-15s, shooting them down. And all the pilots are fine. They all ejected okay. The parachutes deployed fine. It was just mishap, friendly fire. It unfortunately happens sometimes. It's just, a cost of doing business, I guess, even though I'm sure that these planes were not cheap. God knows how much that they actually cost, probably collectively, probably over like $100 million. But anyway, let's check this out.
You're fine? Really? You need something to help you? No problem, you're safe. You're safe, you're safe. Everything good? No problem. Thank you for helping us. Everything perfect?
All right, I'm going to cut that because it could be copyrighted. I've already had my video completely taken off and had to remove music surrounding this conflict. I don't know what it is. There's some Middle Eastern music that you're just not allowed to play on YouTube. So that allegedly was one of the fighter jets that was shot and immediately ejected. So again, not 100% confirmation that was the exact fighter jet that was hit. But here's footage of that. And I believe this was confirmed. This is just on a different account. Paratroop Brady. Kuwait accidentally shot down an American F-15 fighter jet. Pilot survived. I believe that this is the fighter jet that was shot. You see the smoke plume and the jet falling. There they went. Both pilots. Pilot, co-pilot already ejected. As the plane makes its crash landing. Yeah, so there you go. Let me see if I think I got more. U.S. pilot F-15 shot down in Kuwait. Here's another one of the pilots. I think this was a different F-15 pilot that was shot down. Okay, so there you go. There's an extended footage out there somewhere. I wasn't able to find it right before doing this episode, but I think that this interaction was a little bit hostile at first because the civilians believed that he was an Iranian pilot. So they were a little aggressive at first. They didn't get into any fights or any firefight or anything like that. It was a very, very brief misunderstanding, and then they realized, oh, wow, oh my God, this is American. Okay, all right, well, you're cool, you're good. Yeah, we'll help you. And we've got this confirmed. U.S. F-15 down over Kuwait. Friendly fire during drone interception. During Iran's missile and drone barrage, a U.S. F-15 Strike Eagle was shot down amid active air defense operations. Pilot ejected. Pilot survived. Initial confirmation indicates this was not Iran directly shooting down the jet. It was friendly fire during high-speed air defense chaos. This is what real war looks like. Multiple inbound drones, layered missile defense, split-second identification decisions. No movie scripts, no clean narratives, just compressed seconds where mistakes happen. Important distinction. Iran did not directly down a U.S. fighter. Of course, they're going to take responsibility for it, even though we've already got confirmation it was an accident from Kuwaiti forces. This was a defensive misidentification under live threat conditions. Fog of war is real, and this is happening right now. And I believe we already saw these. Yeah, we already saw that. And let's see what else we have. Okay, so that's one of the pilots. And I don't believe that we saw this. No, we didn't see this. This is one of the pilots that's just sitting in the back of the SUV.
Police, yes, 1 minute, 1 minute.
He's not being kidnapped or anything like that. I believe they're taking him to the hospital.
1 minute.
Which I'll have in the next post. Okay, yeah, I think that was it. And this is the next one, right? Yeah, okay, so the Emir of Kuwait, which I believe is His Excellency, checking in on the health of the American pilots after Kuwait mistakenly shot down 3 American airplanes. The USS Liberty conspiracy theorists do not seem to be very interested in the fact that Kuwait just shot down 3 American airplanes. And there he is in the hospital getting checked out. Not sure if he was actually injured. I didn't read anything anywhere about any of the pilots being injured. Probably just standard protocol that he's just being checked out. And from this post, His Excellency, obviously can't pronounce that, checks on the health condition of the injured at Jarrah Hospital. His Excellency, the Minister of Defense, Sheikh Abdullah Ali Abdullah Al-Salam Al-Sabah, today visited Jarrah Hospital to check on the health condition of the injured. During the visit, His Excellency listened to a detailed explanation from the medical team regarding their health conditions and the treatment services provided to them, affirming the Ministry of Defense's commitment to continuously follow up on their status and wishing them a speedy recovery and lasting health and well-being. So it sounds like he might have been a little bit injured, but hopefully he's going to be okay. I mean, look, yeah, that's what they said, right? The injured. No, you know what? These aren't the American fighter pilots. I don't think these are the American fighter pilots. Yeah, because they don't state that specifically. But anyway, from Rabu Popko. Yeah. But anyway, he's apparently one of the American pilots. So anyway, so there you go. Well, let's move on to the next one from Eric Daugherty. Just in, the United States is accelerating strikes on Iranian missile launchers. It's a race against the clock. General Dan Kane says more troops will soon be deployed to the region. 49 Iranian regime leaders have already been killed. This will turn out to be a huge success. It will go down in history. And of course, there's reports coming out all over the place. A million pieces of information are circulating around constantly. From what I heard, the Supreme Leader, which has been 100% confirmed even by Iran, they confirmed that the Supreme Leader, the Ayatollah, was killed in the initial attack, and they had installed an interim Ayatollah, an interim Supreme Leader, and hours after he was installed as the leader, he was killed. And at least that's from what I read somewhere today. I actually may have that somewhere in here.
Though could last a number of weeks. Here's the very latest that we're learning about this operation. President Trump telling Fox News that the strikes have killed 49 members of the Iranian regime's leadership. This, as the chairman of the Joint Chiefs says, more troops will soon be deployed to the Middle East.
Meanwhile, Qatar's defense ministry says it shot down warplanes, missiles, and drones fired from Iran earlier today. It's the latest indication the conflict is expanding across the entire region.
Our chief national security correspondent, Jennifer Griffin, continues our live coverage. She is here in Washington. Jen?
John, the real question is how many missile interceptors does the U.S. and its allies in the Gulf have, and how long they can sustain fighting as a result. That's why there is a race against the clock to take out these missile launchers, many of
that's
which
a good point,
are
man. What's our stockpile looking
Iran.
like?
President Trump said
hopefully
at the
more
Medal
than
of
plenty.
Honor ceremony earlier today, this operation could last 4 or 5 weeks or more.
Oh, yikes.
So could last a number of weeks. Here's the very latest that we're learning about this.
Okay, I mean, if it's going to last that long, it's going to last that long. There's also a report that the U.S. military is going to pay a visit to South Korea to pick up some air defense and missiles and munitions and equipment, whatever it is that we need. South Korea has them, and apparently they've already agreed to turn over that equipment over to us. Not sure if that means that we're running low on anything. Maybe they're just anticipating it to be maybe a heavier firefight than they were originally expecting. I'm not sure, but that's also something that was circulating around today. Real big mistake on Iran shooting missiles in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia joins the U.S.
getting word that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia says they will join the U.S. in the operation against the Islamic Republic of Iran. They said that this comes in the wake of Iran attacking the U.S. base in Saudi Arabia. I just spoke to a senior U.S. official who said the Iranians made a big mistake by firing on Arab coalition partners. Now they are likely to respond. So by Iran firing missiles at UAE, Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and Jordan, they are now likely to fire back at Iranian targets. So those coalition partners are now going to enter this operation that started off as a U.S.-Israeli operation. That is very, very significant, and we haven't seen that happen in the past. The U.S. military has been focusing on high-value targets, I'm told, the IRGC, significant facilities and capabilities, naval facilities, and I'm told underground facilities likely associated with the nuclear program. We also are reporting that Tomahawk missiles were used in the first volley of strikes. According to one official that I talked to, they said we have suppressed their air defenses. So the U.S. and Israel are having a much easier time targeting now. That first wave was really designed to suppress those air defenses. They're not completely suppressed, but they're virtually suppressed. This was a multi-geographic command and control effort designed to overwhelm their defenses, I was told. And the U.S. military used some new capabilities in these strikes. For the first time ever, the U.S. military used one-way attack drones in combat. I think we're the first to report that, but there were hundreds of targets in what is being described to me as a multi-day operation. The Iranian response has been ineffective, I'm told, but then I'm also getting reports that a large number, possibly 135 Shahid drones, those are Iranian drones, may have targeted the U.S. Navy base, the head of Fifth Fleet in Bahrain, and may have struck targets there. But again, we don't have the battle damage assessment yet. We're waiting for CENTCOM to see what has been struck, and we expect to get a briefing later today.
Okay. Well, there you go. Apologies, the video was small. You know, it is what it is. I didn't upload it. I just came across it. But that's definitely good news for the U.S. that we've got not only Saudi Arabia at our back, but they're also getting involved militarily. And from the White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, Trump articulates 4 objectives for Iran: destroy Iran's missile capabilities, wipe out its naval capacity, stop the country from obtaining a nuclear weapon, and ensuring that the Iranian regime cannot continue to arm, fund, and direct armies outside of their borders. And this is going to be found on AP News. And it looks like we've got some spots here. So strikes in Iran is highlighted in blue dots, and the red are the retaliatory strikes from Iran. So obviously they were flying many of their strikes over Iraq and over, Jordan, and then firing into Israel. So that's just a map on some of the later ones. This is up to March the 1st. So this was still over the weekend. So that hasn't been updated as of today. And this is the article. Let's see. The live updates for this article has ended. Looks like the most recent one was at 6:51 p.m. Eastern time, so a couple hours ago as of this recording. Israel and the United States pounded Iran on Monday in a campaign that U.S. President Donald Trump said would likely take several weeks. Tehran and its allies hit back against Israel, Gulf states, and targets critical to the world's energy production. The intensity of the attacks, the killing of Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, and the lack of any apparent exit plan set the stage for a prolonged conflict with far-reaching consequences. Safe havens in the Mideast, like Dubai, have seen incoming fire. Hundreds of thousands of airline passengers are stranded around the globe. Oil prices shot up, and U.S. allies pledged to help stop Iranian missiles and drones. Trump said operations are likely to last 4 or 5 weeks, but he was prepared to go far longer than that. Sounds like the AP's not too thrilled. What to know, U.S. death toll rises to 6 troops. So as of just before 7 p.m. Eastern, at least according to the AP, I didn't hear it from CENTCOM or from any official military sources, not yet. But according to the AP, it says that we're up to 6 troops that have been killed. The U.S. military announced on Monday that 2 previously unaccounted for service members have been confirmed dead, bringing the total American casualties during the operations against Iran up to 6. And so, let's see. Hegseth defends Iran operation. In his first public briefing since the attacks, U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth defended Americans' decision to strike Iran, despite spending years blasting U.S. intervention in the Middle East. He said that Iranian officials spent weeks stalling during recent rounds of U.S. negotiations as part of their plans to attack. He added that the strikes are designed to reduce Iran's navy and end its nuclear and missile ambitions. And the civilians in Lebanon flee their homes. Iranian-backed Hezbollah militant group based in Lebanon fired missiles into Israel for the first time in more than a year. Israel responded by striking Beirut's southern suburbs, killing more than 24 people, according to Lebanon's health ministry. The Lebanese government called Hezbollah's actions illegal and demanded it hand over its weapons. And let's see, is that all that they've got for the latest? Israel strike hits Hezbollah-aligned media building in Beirut's southern suburbs. Okay, so those were the basic highlights, and I'll have this linked below in the description if you want to take a look at that. They'll probably be updating this same article tomorrow, I would imagine. And while we're on this subject, this is from BBC. In maps, strikes across Iran and the Middle East. Iranian strikes on targets across the Middle East and Gulf regions continued on Monday after the U.S. and Israel launched strikes on Iran, killing the country's supreme leader. Strikes have been reported in the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia. An Iranian drone also hit a British RAF base in Cyprus, with 2 more later intercepted. At least 31 people were reported dead in Lebanon on Monday after Israel carried out strikes against Hezbollah targets. It came after the group fired rockets at the Israeli city of Haifa. An Iranian missile hit people sheltering in a city in Israel the day before, killing 9, emergency services said. At least 555 people have been killed in the U.S.-Israel operation in Iran, the Iranian Red Crescent said. 4 U.S. service personnel were killed and 5 left seriously injured during the assault. Donald Trump has since warned that combat operations will continue with full force until all of Washington's objectives are achieved. And these are the strikes in Tehran. So this is just in the city of Tehran, the capital of Iran, and the presidential office being located there, Ministry of Intelligence being right there. And then this is the leadership's house, obviously right here. And let's move on to the next, where Israel and the U.S. attacked. Israeli military announced extensive joint strikes with the U.S. over the weekend, destroying air defenses in western and central Iran. So these are the confirmed strikes in Iran throughout the country. And let's move on to the next, where is Iran attacked. So Iran has attacked all of these countries: Cyprus, Lebanon, Israel, Jordan, Iraq, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Oman, and Saudi Arabia. And what else do we got? U.S. military bases that are located in the Middle East. So we're dotted all over the place. We've got military bases pretty much in every country in the area. So we definitely have pretty good defense or offensive forces, really. All right, and what happened in Cyprus? Let's take a look. Let me see if that's what. Okay, so here it is. An Iranian drone crashed into RAF Akrotiri at midnight at 2200 GMT Sunday. Cypriot President Nikos Christodoulidis announced. No casualties were reported and the base sustained minimal damage, but the UK's Ministry of Defense said family members would be moved. On Monday, a Cypriot government spokesperson said a further 2 drones heading toward RAF Akrotiri had been intercepted. And how the conflict affects the global economy, namely the Strait of Hormuz, which is in that area. Iran has closed it. At least they have ordered anybody not to pass through it, or they will be bombed, shot, sunk, what have you. And that could be very problematic for the long term, because if they sink a few ships more or less blocking that region, that's going to cause, obviously, a long-term issue. Global oil and gas prices rose sharply on Monday, with producers, insurers, and shipping firms affected by war and the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. The cost of European gas soared over 30% after the world's largest producer of liquefied natural gas, Qatar Energy, said it was halting production. Qatar supplies around 1/5 of global liquid natural gas supplies. The past 2 days have seen several reports of attacks on shipping in the strait. Well, I know the United States, we produce a lot of liquid natural gas. Not sure if we produce enough to supply to all of Europe or a significant part of Europe. That I would probably doubt. Not really sure on the Venezuela front. Not sure if liquid natural gas might be one of those things that they produce in addition to oil or not. Honestly, I don't know. Okay, from Defiant L's, Brett Baer after a phone call with President Trump. He said the U.S. is way ahead of schedule in Iran. They met for breakfast, assumed it was good, didn't think we knew. You never attack in the morning. Winds, sun, a lot of things.
Good morning. I just got off the phone
Fox
with the president. He is very pleased with how things are going. Obviously, is disheartened about the loss of life, and there may be more, he said, along the way. But as far as the progress, he said they are ahead of where they thought they would be. I want to read some of these quotes that I asked him and how he answered. He said that as far as a plan, they do have a plan, always had a plan. The intelligence, the level of intelligence that they've had
of course they have a
up
plan.
until this point is truly amazing. I asked, so what you're saying is that you know there is somebody on the ground in Iran that is going to rise up. Quote, yeah, I feel there is. I feel that, and some of them are no longer with us, to be honest, because it was 49 leaders that were taken out. That was going to take 4 weeks, we thought, to get rid of the Iranian leadership. And it's always, you know, if they hide, it's a lot longer than 4 weeks. And they would have been hiding. We were shocked when we heard what was going on. We knew exactly what was happening and where. 49 leaders. And, you know, they're talking about using people now that nobody ever heard of, even though they don't know. They're using people, studying people to be the leader that even they don't know who they are. Can you believe that? I said, it's a tough succession plan in Iran. He said 49 leaders is deep. It's very deep. When they met for breakfast. They assumed it was good for a lot of reasons. Number one, they didn't think we knew, but you never attack in the morning, having to do with winds and sun and a lot of things. It was amazing that we knew everything we knew. He said there is a plan. He points to Venezuela as a template, which means to me that going in, they had some sense on the ground of what was coming next.
Okay, well, this is certainly no Venezuela. I mean, these people are ideologically and religiously driven, unlike those in charge of Venezuela. They were largely driven by profit, greed, power, drugs, and what have you. Not to say that they're not religious in Venezuela. I'm sure they're very religious there, too. This is, just in my opinion, I think this is a whole different animal. If that's what he's comparing this conflict, hopefully they can get in and out quick like they did with Venezuela. I don't think it's going to be like that at all. I think it's going to be somewhat of a mess unless they're really targeted in what they're doing and they just completely 100% obliterate anything militarily, the Navy, the Air Force, and all of the leadership. Hopefully everything works out. Hopefully the people just storm their country back and they take it over and all will be well. I guess we can only hope that it plays out that way. From the White House, watch in full. President Trump provides an update on Operation Epic Fury. This was about 9 hours ago. Today, the U.S. military continues to carry out large-scale combat operations in Iran to eliminate the grave threats posed to America by this terrible terrorist regime. This regime's conventional ballistic missile program is growing rapidly and dramatically, and this posed a very clear, colossal threat to America and our forces stationed overseas. So let's have a look.
Before we begin this important ceremony, and there's no ceremony that can be much more important than.
By the way, this is the Medal of Honor ceremony that he was attending today.
Let me provide a brief update on Operation Epic Fury. Today, the United States military continues to carry out large-scale combat operations in Iran to eliminate the grave threats posed to America by this terrible terrorist regime. Following our obliteration of Iran's nuclear program in Operation Midnight Hammer a short while ago, we warned Iran not to make any attempt to rebuild at a different location because they were unable to use the ones that we so powerfully blew up. But they ignored those warnings and refused to cease their pursuit of nuclear weapons. In addition, the regime's conventional ballistic missile.
So there you go. To all the critics, to President Trump, Timu Obama, and even some Republicans that said, well, wait a minute. I thought that we already destroyed it with Midnight Hammer. I thought there was no threat for nuclear weapons. Well, it's because they moved to another facility. Yeah, we destroyed the one facility. I'm sure they didn't put all their eggs in one basket. That would be incredibly stupid if they did. If they put all of their nuclear eggs in one single basket, they probably had another facility somewhere else. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. Sounds like they did, and they were just working toward building up their nuclear operations yet again.
The program was growing rapidly and dramatically, And this posed a very clear, colossal threat to America and our forces stationed overseas. The regime already had missiles capable of hitting Europe and our bases, both local and overseas, and would soon have had missiles capable of reaching our beautiful America. The purpose of this fast-growing missile program was to shield their nuclear weapon development and make it extraordinarily difficult for anyone to stop them from making these highly forbidden by us nuclear weapons. We were the ones that were complaining. We were the ones that wanted it stopped, but everybody was behind us. They just didn't have the courage to say so. An Iranian regime armed with long-range missiles and nuclear weapons would be an intolerable threat to the Middle East, but also to the American people. Our country itself would be under threat, and it was very nearly under threat. I was very proud to have knocked out the Iran nuclear deal by President Barack Hussein Obama. That was a horrible, horrible, dangerous document. They would have had nuclear weapons 3 years ago, and they would have used them. But I'll not let that happen. For almost 47 years, this regime has been attacking the United States and killing Americans. Every time you see someone with missing arms and legs or a face that's been absolutely shattered violently, it was almost certainly caused by an Iran roadside bomb. They were put there by General Soleimani, who was the father of the roadside bomb. Very proudly, he thought, but I terminated him in my first term. This was our last best chance to strike what we're doing right now and eliminate the intolerable threats posed by this sick and sinister regime. And they are indeed sick and sinister. Our objectives are clear. First, we're destroying Iran's missile capabilities, and you see that happening on an hourly basis, and their capacity to produce brand new ones, and pretty good ones they make. Second, we're annihilating their Navy. We've knocked out already 10 ships. They're at the bottom of the sea. Third, we're ensuring that the world's #1 sponsor of terror can never obtain a nuclear weapon, never going to have a nuclear weapon. I said that from the beginning. They're never going to have a nuclear weapon. They were on the road to getting one legitimately through a deal that was signed foolishly by our country. And finally, we're ensuring that the Iranian regime cannot continue to arm, fund, and direct terrorist armies outside of their borders. And we thought we had a deal, but then they backed out. And they came back, and we thought we had a deal, and they backed out. I said, you can't deal with these people. You've got to do it the right way. Today, we grieve for the 4 heroic American service members who have been killed in action and send our love and support to their families. In their memory, we continue this mission with ferocious, unyielding resolve to crush the threat this terrorist regime poses to the American people, and a threat indeed it is. We have the strongest and most powerful by far military in the world, and we will easily prevail. We're already substantially ahead of our time projections, but whatever the time is, it's okay. Whatever it takes, we will always, and we have right from the beginning, we projected 4 to 5 weeks, but we have capability to go far longer than that. We'll do it. Whatever somebody said today, they said, oh, well, if the president wants to do it really quickly, after that he'll get bored. I don't get bored. There's nothing boring about this. Do you agree with that, Pete? I don't think there's anything, Mr. General. I think there's nothing boring about it. Somebody actually said from the media, I think he'll get bored after about a week or two. No, we don't get bored. I never get bored. If I got bored, I wouldn't be standing here right now, I guarantee you that, to go through what I had to go through. We also projected 4 weeks to terminate the military leadership, and as you know, that was done in about an hour, so we're ahead of schedule there by a lot. But please join me in thanking every American service member who bravely is standing in harm's way. They really are incredible, and I just want to thank you. We have a lot of them right here. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, so that looks like that's the end of the speech. And the Iranians, they did bomb a French base, and there's rumors out there that France may be officially declaring war against Iran. Perhaps such a declaration might push a decision of Congress to do the same here, although I highly doubt that given the hyper-partisanship we have today. Plus, that's not something most Americans would most likely want, I would imagine, and to declare war and complete with soldiers on the ground, which could take who knows how long. I mean, it sounds like that would take years. So I hope, definitely hope that we don't get that far. Hopefully we have very clear objectives. We meet those objectives, if not exceed those objectives, and the Iranian people can take their country back and all will be right with the world. I don't know. Typically it doesn't turn out to be so easy, especially historically speaking, but I guess only time will tell. And from rapid response from the president, and it's during the same meeting, and it looks like this is probably going to already be what we heard in the speech, but let's
For almost
see.
47 years, this regime has been attacking the United States and killing Americans. Every time you see someone with missing arms and legs or a face that's been absolutely shattered violently, it was almost certainly caused by an Iran roadside bomb. They were put there by General Soleimani, who was the father of the roadside bomb. Very proudly, he thought, but I terminated him in my first term.
Yeah, he died like a
This
dog,
was
right?
our last best chance to strike what we're doing right now and eliminate the intolerable threats posed by this sick and sinister regime. And they are indeed sick and sinister. Our objectives are clear. First, we're destroying Iran's missile capabilities, and you see that happening on an hourly basis, and their capacity to produce brand new ones, and pretty good ones they make. Second, we're annihilating their Navy. We've knocked out already 10 ships. They're at the bottom of the sea. Third, we're ensuring that the world's #1 sponsor.
Okay, I think we already heard that. Just in case, I'll repost it. But I'm sounding more familiar talking about the ships that are at the bottom of the sea and so on and so forth. Okay, and together we recognize the exceptional valor of Master Sergeant Roderick Edmonds, Staff Sergeant Michael Ollis, and Commander Sergeant Major Terry Richardson as they receive our nation's highest military award, the Congressional Medal of Honor.
But now for the reason that we're gathered this morning to recognize the unsurpassed courage of 3 really incredible American heroes, 1 living and 2 no longer with us. So together, we recognize the exceptional valor of Master Sergeant Roderick Edmonds. And maybe I could ask your families to stand because they're beautiful families. I got to meet them. And please. So Staff Sergeant Michael Ollis and Command Sergeant Major Terry Richardson, as they receive our nation's highest military award, the Congressional Medal of Honor.
Okay, so that's the clip, and it was a whole thing, and I'm sure you can find the entirety of it on the White House. They typically post the entire ceremonies at White House if you want to check them out on the X platform. We'll move on to the next. Destroy Iranian offensive missiles, destroy Iranian missile production, destroy their Navy and other security infrastructure, and they will never have nuclear weapons. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth outlines Operation Epic Fury at the Pentagon.
The mission of Operation Epic Fury is laser focused. Destroy Iranian offensive missiles, destroy Iranian missile production, destroy their Navy and other security infrastructure, and they will never have nuclear weapons. We're hitting them surgically, overwhelmingly, and unapologetically. With every passing day, our capabilities get stronger and Iran's get weaker. We set the terms of this war, from start to finish. Our ambitions are not utopian. They are realistic, scoped to our interests and the defense of our people and our allies. Speaking of people, We hope the Iranian people take advantage of this incredible opportunity. President Trump has been clear, now is your time. To Iranian security forces, choose wisely. President Trump has also been clear about your fate in either direction. To the media outlets and political left screaming endless wars, stop. This is not Iraq. This is not endless. I was there for both. Our generation knows better, and so does this president. He called the last 20 years of nation-building wars dumb, and he's right. This is the opposite. This operation is a clear, devastating, decisive mission. Destroy the missile threat, destroy the Navy, no nukes.
Okay, I mean, one can only hope so. They will never have any nuclear weapons. I mean, surely I hope this isn't another one of those, we're going to go in and get those WMDs, those weapons of mass destruction, because those lines, they don't, they're not identical, but they almost kind of rhyme a little bit, except, look, they said that they've been enriching uranium for years. I remember reading, and I think I saw a documentary on the whole Stuxnet debacle with malware that was injected into the Iranian nuclear facility in the section of the facility where they were enriching uranium. This Stuxnet virus ended up destroying their enrichment process, which was like way back. That was like 10, 15 years ago. That was a long time ago. So, I mean, obviously that they've been working on trying to enrich uranium to produce a nuclear weapon. So, unlike the WNDs, which is they were just probably full of shit from the get-go. I don't think there was any weapons of mass destruction. I mean, look, like when you think weapons of mass destruction, what do you think of? I think of nuclear weapons. I think of 20 megatons, 30 megaton thermonuclear weapons. That's what weapons of mass destruction is, as far as I'm concerned. However, apparently that wasn't the same definition back then. Like a weapon of mass destruction could be an IED, or it could be a missile that could take out a building or something. Like, no, I don't know, man. I don't find that to be any weapon of mass destruction, but apparently they did back then. At least that's what I interpreted it back then. All right, so DOW rapid response. We've got more from Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. The mission of Operation Epic Fury is laser focused. With every passing day, our capabilities get stronger and Iran gets weaker. I have a feeling he's going to say the rest of it in the video, so let's just give it a
President Trump puts America and Americans first. He doesn't hesitate, and neither do our troops. The mission of Operation Epic Fury is laser focused. Destroy Iranian offensive missiles, destroy Iranian missile production, destroy their Navy and other security infrastructure, and they will never have nuclear weapons.
I think
we're hitting them surgically, overwhelmingly, and unapologetically. With every passing day, our capabilities get stronger and Iran's get weaker. We set the terms of this war, from start to finish. Our ambitions are not utopian. They are realistic, scoped to our interests and the defense of our people and our allies.
Yeah, I didn't think we heard that. That's why I played it through. I don't think that was a repeat. There could be a repeat here and there. But anyway, I don't believe this one's going to be a repeat either. Today, in their desperation, the enemy is unmasked.
Today, in their desperation, the enemy is unmasked. As Iranian missiles and drones rain down indiscriminately on the hotels, airports, apartments, and other civilian targets of their neighbors. Cowardly
trying to terrify everybody.
Tactics from a regime that for decades has trafficked in cowardly terrorist tactics, lies, death, and destruction to this day.
Yeah, bombing innocent civilians.
The Iranian leadership has built nothing except proxies and missiles and drones and deeply buried nuclear factories and facilities. Peaceful nuclear ambitions do not need to be buried underneath mountains.
Well, no, but come on, that is kind of a strategic advantage. I mean, why the hell do we have NORAD buried deep in a mountain? I mean, it's because it's a strategic advantage on your end. All right, Secretary of War, direct message to the Joint Force. This is your moment. This is the generational turning point America has waited for since 1979.
Speak straight to you, the Joint Force, our warriors on the front lines. This is your moment. This is the generational turning point America has waited for since 1979, and since the rudderless wars of hubris, my generation, our generation, endured. Don't listen to the noise. Just stay focused. Our commander-in-chief is steady at the wheel. We face a determined enemy, but you are better. But we must prove it every single day. History doesn't care if we're tired, if we're scared, or if the fight feels big. It demands warriors who rise anyway. Peace through strength, the warrior ethos, lethality, unity of purpose, those are not slogans. They're the beating heart of what it means to wear the uniform, that uniform. You think clearly under fire, you act decisively in chaos, you uphold the Constitution, and you uphold our country without hesitation. We are not defenders anymore. We are warriors, trained to kill the enemy and break their will. History is watching. Be the force you swore an oath to be, focused, disciplined, lethal, and unbreakable. We will finish this on America First conditions of President Trump's choosing. Nobody else's, as it should be. And know this above all, President Trump and I have your back, always. Through fire, through criticism, through fake news, through everything. We unleash you because you are the best, most powerful, most lethal fighting force the world has ever seen. May Almighty God watch over you and his providential arms of protection extend over you. Godspeed, warriors, and keep going.
Okay, so I don't know how this is really going to play out for the midterms. Obviously, if this whole thing goes very successfully, the whole Iranian regime is completely destroyed. I don't see how that's going to hurt during the midterms at all. But I know when it comes to a sitting president during wartime, he tends to get reelected when he's up for reelection. I'm not sure how that plays for the party, though. How would that play for Republicans in the midterms if we're in war times? Like, would people just lean toward Republicans because they're already kind of running the show? I honestly don't know. I just knew that to be the case with a president. I don't know how that goes for a whole political party. Not really sure on that. From the Department of War Live, Secretary of War and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Air Force General Dan Kane, hold a press briefing at the Pentagon. And I think this was the video of its entirety from the Department of War. Yeah, so it's 41 minutes in total. I'm not going to play it, but I will repost this. Usually I'll add these videos to the bottom after watching the clips just to show you that the entirety of it is out there, and it's at Department of War over on the X platform. You don't have to be signed in. You don't have to create an account or anything like that. You can just click the link and just go straight there, or just type x.com. It'll take you there, and they've got a little search thing there if you want to look for Department of War, but I already reposted it, so there's a direct link to my profile down below in the description. You can click on it, and it's right there. All right, Rapid Response 47. The hardest hits are yet to come from the U.S. military, from Secretary Rubio, from the Secretary of State. The next phase will be even more punishing on Iran than it is right now. The world will be a safer place when we're done with this operation.
They're suffering a tremendous amount of damage. Honestly, again, I'm not going to give away the details of our tactical efforts, but the hardest hits are yet to come from the U.S. military. The next phase will be even more punishing.
That's what they call it, the phase.
Right now, someone was screaming, "How long will it take?"
Not stage 2.
I don't know how long
phase
it'll take.
2.
We have objectives. We will do this as long as it takes to achieve those objectives, and we will achieve those objectives. The world will be a safer place when we're done with this operation.
Oh yeah, man! If they're 100% successful, if they completely wipe them out, yeah, there's no doubt the world's going to be a lot more successful, or a lot more peaceful and successful for that matter. I would imagine. There was absolutely an imminent threat, says Secretary Rubio on Iran, and then they give a long quote, which we'll hear here.
There absolutely was an imminent threat, and the imminent threat was that we knew that if Iran was attacked, and we believed they would be attacked, that they would immediately come after us. And we were not going to sit there and absorb a blow before we responded, because the Department of War assessed that if we did that, if we waited for them to hit us first after they were attacked, and by someone else, Israel attacked them, they hit us first, and we waited for them to hit us, we would suffer more casualties and more deaths. We went proactively in a defensive way to prevent them from inflicting higher damage. Had we not done so,
they would have scrambled their jets, their navy.
Hill about how we knew that this was going to happen, and we didn't act preemptively to prevent more casualties and more loss of life.
Yeah, look, just given the situation, I think so far they've done it the right way, as opposed to, yeah, look, if Israel was going to attack them no matter what, if that turns out actually to be the case, that Israel's like, look, I don't care what you say, President Trump, we're going to attack them, whether if you like it or not, and maybe potentially backing them into a corner, that would be kind of wild if it actually plays out to be, or if it turns out to be the case in the future, once all the dust is settled, then, I mean, yeah, I think what he said is right, that for us to just be more offensive with it, the whole surprise element, taking out their air defenses, their naval defenses as quickly as humanly possible has given us a much better advantage and probably saved a lot of lives, really. All right, from the White House, Iran must never be allowed to possess a nuclear weapon. Destroying their existing ballistic weaponry is a key aspect of ensuring that never takes place.
The purpose of this is to destroy that missile capability. Why does Iran want that ballistic missile capability? What they are trying to do and have been trying to do for a very long time is build a conventional weapons capability as a
they want everyone to convert to Islam.
Where they can hide behind it. Meaning, there would come a point where they have so many conventional missiles, so many drones, and it can inflict so much damage that no one can do anything about their nuclear program. That is what they were trying to do, is put themselves in a place of immunity where the damage they could inflict on the region would be so high that no one can do anything about their nuclear program or their nuclear ambitions. They are producing, by some estimates, over 100 of these missiles a month. Compare that to the 6 or 7 interceptors that can be built a month. They can build 100 of these a month, not to mention the thousands of one-way attack drones that they also have. They've been doing this for a very long time, and by the way, they've been doing it under sanction. You see the attacks they're conducting right now?
Oh, yeah.
They're attacking airports.
See, that's what I was about to say. Yeah, but isn't their economy crippled? They've dealt with 150% inflation over the last year, and their inflation's been steadily going up for decades at this point. I mean, inflation's gone absolutely crazy. I mean, it went from like 50,000, whatever their currency's called, 50,000 for every $1 US, and I'm not being precise here at all. It went from 50,000 per $1 US up to like 4 or 5 million per US dollar, and that was over the course of like 20 years or something like that. So yeah, for him to point that out, that they're under sanction, they're under economic sanction, they're under a wide variety of sanctions from all over the West, to where we've pretty much isolated them in the world, and they're still building, if what he says is correct, 1,000 of these missiles a month. That's actually kind of impressive.
They're hitting not just military bases, they're attacking our embassies directly. They're attacking facilities that have nothing to do with war or with military, and that's a weakened Iran. That's in Iran despite years of sanction. Imagine a year from now or a year and a half from now, the capabilities they would have to inflict damage on us. It's an unacceptable risk, especially in the hands of a regime that's run by radical clerics.
Yeah, I mean, look, I kind of think that he's right. It just seems like all the chess pieces were just lined up at the right time, and if we're going to do it, we might as well do it now, where they're as crippled as they can be in the moment. Maybe they hit rock bottom, maybe they didn't. Maybe a year from now, they would have suffered even more economically, or maybe not. Maybe they were starting to go back on the upswing, although I doubt it, because with them being cut off from Venezuela, I don't know all the details of that. I'm no like geopolitical expert or anything. All I know is that Israel was benefiting from Maduro's Venezuela, and now that Maduro's not there anymore, Venezuela doesn't fare too well, and just going after them shortly after capturing Maduro, obviously, I think was at a strategic advantage for the United States.
Going back to the purpose of this is to destroy that missile capability. Why does Iran want that ballistic missile capability? What they are trying to do and have been trying to do for a very long time is build a conventional weapons capability as a shield where they can hide behind it. Meaning, there would come a point where they have so many conventional missiles, so many drones, and it can inflict so much damage that no one can do anything about their nuclear program. That is what they were trying to do, is put themselves in a place of immunity where the damage they could inflict on the region would be so high that
I think we already heard that,
right now, they're attacking airports, they're attacking hotels, they're hitting not just military bases, they're attacking our embassies directly, they're attacking facilities that have nothing to do with war or with military, and that's a weakened Iran. That's in Iran. That entire regime is led by radical clerics who don't make geopolitical decisions. They make decisions on the basis of theology, their view of theology, which is an apocalyptic one. That has to be taken very seriously as well. So that was the purpose for what this operation is all about. That's what it's focused on. As the President said earlier today, it is on or ahead of schedule. I will defer to the Department of War to discuss the progress being made at a tactical level, but it was the right decision and an important decision for the safety and security of the world.
Well, yeah, man, they basically just want to allow the West to collapse, or they want to take out the West, and then they just want their regime to spread around the world. And we've got this, probably, maybe, no, actually, this looks different. Let's
conducted this operation with a very clear goal in mind. I haven't got a chance to see a lot of reporting. I don't understand what the confusion is. Let me explain it to you, and I'll do it once again as clearly as possible. Perhaps you'll report it that way. The United States is conducting an operation to eliminate the threat of Iran's short-range ballistic missiles and the threat posed by their Navy, particularly to naval assets. That is what it is focused on doing right now, and it's doing quite successfully. I'll leave it to the Pentagon and the Department of War to discuss the tactics behind that and the progress that's being made. That is the clear objective of this mission. The second question that's been asked is, why now? Well, there's two reasons why now. The first is it was abundantly clear that if Iran came under attack by anyone, the United States or Israel or anyone, they were going to respond against the United States. The orders had been delegated down to the field commanders. It was automatic, and in fact, it bared to be true, because in fact, within an hour of the initial attack on the leadership compound, the missile forces in the south and in the north, for that matter, had already been activated to launch. In fact, those had already been pre-positioned. The third is the assessment that was made that if we stood and waited for that attack to come first before we hit them, we would suffer much higher casualties. And so the president made the very wise decision. We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer
Israel
higher
did start all of
casualties
it.
and perhaps even higher those killed. And then we would all be here answering questions about why we knew that and didn't act.
Yeah, and didn't act. Right. Yeah, because that's what they would have said. Why'd you stand around and not do anything? Now, hundreds of U.S. service members are killed, or what have you. I mean, God forbid it would have been that bad. I totally get what he's saying. I understand what he's saying. All right, watch Secretary Rubio explains to journalists why Iran wanted missiles, and Al Jazeera covers it live. President Trump made a wise decision. I think we already did watch this, though, didn't we? I'm pretty sure we did. Yeah, we already watched the whole thing, but very interestingly, this is on Al Jazeera.
Especially in the hands of a regime that's run by radical clerics.
Obviously, the Middle East
The
pays attention to Al Jazeera, right?
Was a radical cleric.
Isn't that a Qatari news channel or something?
Is led by radical clerics who don't make geopolitical decisions. They make decisions on the basis.
Okay, yeah, so they were just pointing that out. The House Foreign Affairs Committee majority that Al Jazeera is even broadcasting Secretary Rubio. All right, we got another one from them. Iran was on the precipice of striking allied forces in the region, which is why the destruction of their ballistic missile launchers, stockpiles, and manufacturing capabilities is the objective of the mission. Our military swift actions were vital in erasing that threat and destroying their capabilities. Okay, I think this is a new one.
Let me say two things about it. Number one, the president always has the options to undertake whatever operations he decides to do as the commander-in-chief. That said, we believe the objective that we have set for this mission, which is the destruction of their ballistic missile capabilities, both launch capability and manufacturing, can be achieved without ground forces. Right now, we're not postured for ground forces, but obviously the president has those options. He's never going to rule out anything. But right now, our focus is on the destruction of their ballistic missile launchers, their ballistic missile stockpiles, and their ballistic missile manufacturing capability, as well as their one-way attract drones and their Navy, because of the threat it poses to global shipping.
Yeah, one step at a time. That's basically how we're handling it. U.S. Central Command last night, U.S. B-1 bombers struck deep inside Iran to degrade Iranian ballistic missile capabilities. As the president stated, we're going to destroy their missiles and raise their missile industry to the ground. Hell yeah. Rock and roll. Yeah, there you go, man. Taking care of business. Heading on out under the cover of darkness. Take out all their missile defenses. U.S. Central Command, USS Gerald R. Ford, CVN-78, the world's largest aircraft carrier, is in the fight with U.S. forces supporting Operation Epic Fury, launching aircraft from the eastern Mediterranean Sea. And they added a few photos of the ongoing operations against Iran from the aircraft carrier out in the Mediterranean. And there we go. Rolling on to Raw's alerts. Breaking, the U.S. State Department has issued an urgent warning instructing U.S. citizens to depart immediately using commercial means due to serious and escalating safety risks. Americans currently in the following countries: Bahrain, Egypt, Iran, Israel, the West Bank, Gaza, Jordan, Kuwait, Lebanon, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Syria, the United Arab Emirates, and Yemen are being urged to leave immediately, if possible, as regional tensions continue to rise. If I were to take a wild guess, the most amount of Americans in any area of the Middle East, I'm sure, would be in the Emirates. That's probably where the most of them are going to be. A lot of, especially younger Americans, they like to take out these massive credit card, massive credit card debt and go out to Dubai and just blow all kinds of crazy amounts of money, just partying it up out there. So, yeah, you got to come home. You better come home because there's no telling what's going to happen in the days ahead. From the White House, thank you, President Trump. And President Trump's Truth Social says, if I didn't terminate Obama's horrendous Iran nuclear deal, JCPOA, Iran would have had a nuclear weapon 3 years ago. That was the most dangerous transaction we have ever entered into, and it had been allowed to stand. The world would be an entirely different place right now. You can blame Barack Hussein Obama and sleepy Joe Biden. Thank you, President Trump. And again, there's no telling exactly how powerful whatever a nuclear weapon developed by Iran might look like. I have a feeling it would probably be like around the 10 kiloton yield, which is still nothing to sneeze at all. It's still a very dangerous weapon. I mean, it would probably rival like Fat Man Little Boy from 1945 Japan, Nagasaki and Hiroshima, probably around that level. Compared to what we have today, where it's measured in like tens of megatons. It'd probably be a firecracker in comparison, but still, dude, a nuclear weapon's a nuclear weapon. I mean, that's not something we would ever want Iran to have. All right, so this is from Soliman Ahmed. Breaking, IRGC General Jabari, and he says the Americans have relocated the majority of their aircraft to Cyprus. We will launch so many missiles at Cyprus that they will be forced to flee from there as well. I mean, I don't think that's actually the case. I believe that, I don't know, honestly, I don't even know if we do have a base on Cyprus. Maybe the British or maybe the French, maybe they do, or maybe the U.S., maybe we have a base there. I just have a feeling that, I don't know, I'm sure that, look, we saw the map with all of the military bases all over the Middle East. I'm sure we have our assets spread pretty far and wide. It'd be kind of stupid to put everything on one tiny little island in the Eastern Mediterranean. It'd be kind of stupid, but let's hear him out. It's probably, oh yeah, okay, so there's English subtitles.
در منطقه زدیم، در کویت، در دبی، در قطر، در عراق، در اقصا نقاط دیگر در عربستان، اینها هواپیماهاشون رو تقریبا تعداد کثیری شاید 70-80% رو بردن به سمت قبرس و از اونجا تو 3 پایگاهی که تو جزایرش دارن از اونجا سازماندهی میکنن، آماده میکنن و به ما حمله میکنن. خب ما با دلیل محکم، استدلال قوی، چون قبرس این میدان رو به دشمن داده، به دشمن غدار ما داده، ما هم اونجا رو زدیم و خواهیم زد و مثل همین منطقه که برخی از کشورها پایگاه به اونها داده بودن، پایگاهشون رو زدیم، اونها رو دچار این خواهیم کرد که از اونجا فرار کنن به یه نقطه دیگه‌ای برن.
Okay, it was relocated elsewhere, but there are fake audience in the background, none of which are real. I don't know if they were intending on, leading people to believe that there's just a lot of people that are just agreeing with him in any way or whatever. I mean, for all we know, this dude's not even living anymore. I mean, there's really no telling exactly when that was. It could have been maybe even before the conflict. I don't know. It doesn't sound like it was. It does sound recent. Quiet Patriot, Iran and its citizens are celebrating the death of their supreme leader, cheering and lighting off fireworks. The whole country, it seems, is seen cheering in their homes as they get the news. Yet the Democrats are protesting no war. I hope the people of Iran get what they want. It doesn't seem like any of them are upset, just the people who want everyone to be oppressed because they said so. So let's have a listen. Okay, I think we got the idea. Celebrations, you hear people out in the distance. You don't see any people out on the street, so they're clearly celebrating from inside their homes. A lot of celebration erupting when they got the news. Eric Dougherty, holy smokes, even ABC was just forced to report that in deep blue Los Angeles, support is surging for President Trump. Massive crowd gathered, Iranian flags along with the American and the Israel flags. There were messages thanking Trump.
And here in Southern California, hundreds of Iranian Americans rallied and celebrated the deaths of Iran's supreme leader. Some who even said they were opposed to President Trump before are now praising his military
stand with
action.
President Trump.
Eyewitness News reporter Tim Pulliam is live in Westwood this evening with more on the rally
they don't
and
like
how
that.
people there are reacting to the strikes in Iran. Tim.
Yeah, Liz, Jory, the group was celebrating here all afternoon. They have since gone home. They say what is happening in Iran is a moment for change. You just heard from an Iranian woman who essentially said Iranians are large in numbers and they want new leadership. This event drew hundreds of people to the streets.
Crowd.
Air 7 showed the massive crowd gathered outside the federal building in Westwood. They waved Iranian flags along with the American and the Israel flags. There were messages
and the Trump banner. Don't forget about
Donald
that.
Trump and Israel for striking their native land, killing Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei. They say for decades he left the country broken and oppressed.
I'm here to celebrate free Iran. I'm here to celebrate all the people that have recently died, make sure that their deaths were not in vain, and make sure that we're here to remember them.
For the first time in 47 years, the people of Iran have risen against darkness, against evil, and they know their only hope is President Trump and Israel. Together, we get together, and it's the only hope, the only chance we have to get rid of this evil regime.
The atmosphere has been festive all afternoon with dancing and singing, and despite the casualties from this conflict, they believe Iran will be able to thrive under new leadership. Tim Pulliam, ABC
Well, they certainly
7,
could.
Eyewitness News.
Wow, it's almost as if Trump ain't all that bad. And Bethany O'Leary, wow, unbelievable. Deep blue Washington, D.C. is overflowing with Iranians rallying behind President Trump's bold strikes on the regime after enduring 47 years of tyranny, which Trump happens to be the 47th president. Just an interesting coincidence. Trump has finally brought freedom to Iran, and the gratitude is pouring out. At defeat Democrats. Okay. Dude, zoom out. Good grief. Okay, well, there you go. Happening apparently in Washington, D.C. Trump's dance challenge by Iranians in appreciation of the U.S. president for the killing of Khamenei and Mom Lakati. That's the name of the account. So here we go. All right, that was hilarious. It was funny. I don't even know who that guy was. Maybe he's a recognizable face out there. All right, incredible scene in Toronto. Iranians turned out in force at the American consulate, laying flowers at a memorial for our fallen troops and chanting U.S. Army thank you over and over. 100 strong, voices united, pure gratitude.
U.S. Army, thank you! U.S. Army, thank you! U.S. Army, thank you! U.S. Army, thank you! USA! USA!
Wow, man, that's awesome. They're thanking the U.S. Army from Canada. That's cool. All right, so let's get into this. Thomas Massey ended this poll 1 hour in as the accounts from, quote, Cyprus and, quote, Europe tried to hijack it again. At Elon Musk, can we have a feature to limit X poll interactions to users in the United States? And he dropped this poll. I didn't catch it earlier today, but it was up for apparently an hour. And he says, do you, the American people, think Congress should debate the objectives of war with Iran and vote on whether to wage war so the mission for our military is defined? And 25% as of the point where he grabbed the screenshot, Congress should debate. 25% no, trust the president, 37%, and just end the war now, 38%. And so we've got a reply from Sean Faresh, and he says Thomas Massey is so full of it. He claimed foreign accounts were hijacking his poll when nobody even has access to that data. You don't see who voted in X polls, how they voted, or where they're from, which I believe he's right. I don't think that anybody on the front end, maybe like back in the halls of X, like in the corporation, they might have access to that, but we don't, and Thomas Massey doesn't. So anyway, he says, plus Massey's biggest supporters are foreigners. I mean, yeah, that's kind of hilarious. If they turn out to be bots, you know, it makes you wonder. What a loser. The reality is the poll proved he's out of touch with the rest of the country and he got butthurt about it, so he deleted the post. And let's take a look at this one first. So it appears into this poll 1 hour, which I already read all of this. It looks like that's from him. And then this is what Sean Faresh had grabbed a screenshot of an hour after he posted it with 1 hour and 27 minutes left. Remember this because it says Congress should debate at 24%, no, trust the president at 40%, and just end the war now at 36%. So trust the president was leading with 1 hour and 27 minutes left. But look at the one he shared with 2 hours left. And if you want to see it straight from his post, I'll show it here. Again, it says 2 hours left, and that's the one that Thomas Massey posted. And then the one that Sean Faresh posted had less than 2 hours. It had only an hour and 27 minutes left. And the president, trust the president, let President Trump do what he's doing, was winning out. And Thomas Massey, apparently, he got all butthurt about it, so he deleted the post and he blamed bots, which is crazy. So that happened today to the point where he was trending on X, which is kind of difficult to do. I mean, it's not every day that you trend on X. All right, so Eric Daugherty breaking. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte just stunned the Democrats, coming out in 100% support of President Trump's Iran triumph. The commander-in-chief, the leader of the free world, President Donald J. Trump, I really commend what is happening here, taking out the nuclear capability and ballistic missile program in Iran. This is crucial. I spoke with all the key European leaders. There's widespread support for the president's doing. This is kind of a big deal.
My thoughts are with the service members, the U.S. service members who made the ultimate sacrifice over the last couple of days.
Secretary General of NATO.
Let me also say that the commander-in-chief, the leader of the free world, President Donald J. Trump, I really commend what is happening here. Taking out Khamenei, taking out the nuclear capability in Iran, but also taking out the ballistic missile program in Iran. This is crucial. And what I see in Europe, I spoke with all the key European leaders over the weekend, is widespread support for what the president is doing, and also making sure
we'd sure like to hear from them.
Logistics, access, defending key U.S. interests in Europe and in the region, the Europeans are really stepping up. First of all,
all right, man, that sounds like fantastic news to me. Especially if you're in support of us crushing Iran and getting rid of the Iranian regime. However, the leader of Spain, he's not too happy about it, and I've got a post of that coming up right now. And breaking, Spain expels U.S. aircraft from its bases. 15 U.S. aircraft leave Spain after government says bases cannot be used for Iran attacks, according to Reuters. I don't think we were necessarily, quote-unquote, forced out. It's my understanding that they're U.S. bases, but they're in Spain, but there's some 1988 agreement or something along those lines. There's some agreement that the U.S. has with Spain where like we can operate and have bases in Spain, but like Spain gets to oversee in some way or another. Well, they don't want anything with regard to Iranian conflict, or they don't want to be involved with it. From what I hear, it's a left-leaning or a leftist government that's in charge right now in Spain, and that might be fueling the decision for them to not allow us to operate in Spain with regard to the Iranian conflict. But I got to follow up here. Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez on Iran, and I'm assuming there's going to be subtitles. If not, then I'll just pause it, and then I'll just read the quote.
hoy más que nunca es imprescindible recordar.
Okay, so I'll just read the quote. Remember that one can be against a hateful regime, as is the case with the Iranian regime, and at the same time it be against an unjustified, dangerous military intervention outside of international law. And he probably had some extra words there, but I don't speak Spanish, so I'm not going to be able to understand it. From leader John Thune, for decades, Iran has fomented terror throughout the Middle East, endangering U.S. service members, U.S. citizens, and government personnel in the region and many of our allies. My prayers are for the success of this mission, for the freedom of the Iranian people, and above all, for the safety of U.S. personnel in harm's way. And again, John Thune, he is the Senate Majority Leader. However, that may not be for much longer because it sounds like there's some Senate Republicans that are looking to take him out of that position and have him replaced because they're really pissed off that he's dragging his feet on this Save America Act, which requires voter ID nationally for our elections. So let's
Mr. President, over the weekend, American forces took action against the longtime threat posed by the mullahs in Tehran. For decades, Iran has fomented terror throughout the Middle East, endangering U.S. service members, U.S. citizens, and personnel in the region, and many of our allies. In addition, Iran has relentlessly pursued the development of its own nuclear program, despite repeated violations identified by the international atomic watchdog, the IAEA. Iran is also aggressively growing the range and inventory of its ballistic missiles and launchers, an inventory that is already the largest in the region. Combine that with a Navy that aims to threaten a key shipping channel, and it is clear that Iran poses a serious risk to America's national security interests, as well as those of our allies and partners. Mr. President, President Trump and his administration relentlessly pursued a diplomatic solution to the threat posed by Iran, but the Iranian regime refused diplomatic off-ramps. And so now the President is taking action. My prayers are for the success of the mission and, above all, for the safety of U.S. personnel in harm's way. 4 U.S. service members have lost their lives as a result of Iranian attacks. My thoughts and prayers today are with their families and loved ones and with their fellow service members.
Of course, in an official capacity, he is essentially shown his support for the Iranian conflict. InfoWars. Robert Spencer from Jihad Watch reminds us of Iran's bloody decades-long track record of killing U.S. servicemen and why America didn't start the current conflict.
Yeah, Hegseth said it very well. He said, "We did not start this war, but we will finish it." And this is extremely important because I think that the left is trying to make out as if the Ayatollah Khamenei was innocently tending his garden and suddenly the bombs start falling.
Right.
And nothing could be further from the truth. We have to remember that the Islamic Republic of Iran has been on a war footing against the United States since its inception in 1979. There was the Iranian hostage crisis. There was the bombing of the Beirut barracks in which 243 U.S. service members were brutally murdered. And that was by Hezbollah, which is a wholly owned and operated subsidiary of the Islamic Republic of Iran. As you noted, the Islamic Republic has been responsible for the deaths of over 600 other American service members. And Khamenei said not long ago, and he has reiterated as well, that death to America, which they chant routinely, is not just a slogan. It is a policy. It was the motive, the method, the goal of their entire regime. And so this regime was a real threat to the United States. The left is not being honest about this. They have sent assassination squads to the United States to murder an Iranian dissident.
Well, dude, wasn't it the left in Iran? Weren't they the ones that were responsible for this whole regime to even ascend to power in the first place? I mean, that was an interview that I heard from an Iranian yesterday when I did my Sunday video. I showed that clip where he said that leftists, it were leftists that were in Iran that allowed this regime to ascend to power. They assisted in their ascension to power, and after they ascended into power, they essentially exterminated all the leftists.
New York, Masih Ahmadinejad, and a Saudi diplomat in Washington. They have sleeper cells inside the United States, as the U.S. intelligence community has acknowledged. This is a malign actor that is actively hostile to the United States and has acted against American interests in numerous arenas, both in the United States and elsewhere. The attack, the aggression has all been on their side. As Hegseth said, All we're doing now is ending this war.
Yeah, just taking care of business because, yeah, they're the state sponsor of terrorism. They have been, what, for decades. I mean, as he said, since, I guess, arguably 1979. All right, this is from Piers Morgan. First, I'm going to read Cenk Uyghur's response. Actually, here, let's see where I can go to the beginning. All right, so who has done more damage to the world? Ali Khamenei or Benjamin Netanyahu? Well, I'm going to go with Ali. And obviously, it won out at 69.3%. And he says it is an empirical fact that Netanyahu has killed more people than more civilians, more reporters, and more human rights workers. Okay, so he's obviously biased in his answer. He's clearly not very happy with the direction that poll likely went, with 257,000 votes, by the way. And he goes on, you know, you can pause if you want to read it. I'm not going to go through every bit of Cenk Uyghur's response. I mean, he's just going to talk about how evil Israel and Netanyahu is. That's my assumption, at least. But anyway, so he says, hey, Piers Morgan, I hear you criticized me today for not cheering on the death of Khamenei enthusiastically enough. Here are 8 of 10 Americans, 20,000 of them saying they think Netanyahu has caused more damage. Will you ask everyone to be equally enthusiastic in his death? And so Piers Morgan, hi, Cenk. I criticized your use of the word courageous for the Ayatollah. There was nothing courageous about him. He shamefully repressed his people and sponsored terrorism all over the world. That's cowardly, not courageous. And it doesn't look like he responded, at least not in the comments. I mean, maybe he reposted them from there. I mean, I suppose I could take a quick look and see if he added anything else from an hour ago. Let me go back and just check. No, I don't see that he responded to him. This was the string here. And then he gets in with that he was on with Tucker Carlson, talks about the Young Turks and so on. Yeah, it doesn't look like he responded to Cenk Uyghur or Piers Morgan. Anyway, let's move on from this. Head on to the next. If I can get back to it. There we go. Conservative patriot, Kamala versus Trump on Iran.
What's the message to Iran?
Don't.
As President Biden said, just don't.
Exactly. One word. Pretty straightforward.
What does that fucking mean? Don't? Don't what?
I don't care. I don't care. They've got to be stopped.
Yeah, there you go. You got to stop Iran. And that's such a Democrat answer, by the way. Just don't. Don't what? Like, just broad brushing everything like they always do, just as general and as blanketed as they could possibly be, offering no real solutions. All right, flashback. Reporter, you're saying that Obama did not need authorization initially and still doesn't need authorization to strike Libya? And Nancy Pelosi says, yes, rules for thee, not for me, according to the Democrats.
So, Madam Speaker, Madam Leader, you're saying that the president did not need authorization initially and still does not need any authorization from Congress on Libya?
Yes. Thank you both. Thank you all very much.
Well, why is that? He doesn't need authorization from Congress with regard to Libya. Okay, well, that's good to know. So, therefore, Trump doesn't need authorization from Congress with regard to Iran. And Libya wasn't the only thing Obama was involved in. So I've read. It was something like 8 countries that he bombed. All right, so Joe Rogan, podcast news. Hillary Clinton in 2008. I want the Iranians to know that if I am president, we will attack Iran.
And I want the Iranians to know that if I'm the president, we will attack Iran. Whatever stage of development they might be in their nuclear weapons program,
got Adam Schiff eyes.
In the next 10 years, during which they might
eyes.
Foolishly consider launching an attack on Israel, we would be able to totally obliterate them. That's a terrible thing to say, but those people who run Iran need to understand that, because that perhaps will deter them from doing something that would be reckless, foolish, and tragic.
Okay, well then she should be all in support of President Trump's actions then, because obviously she was in support of obliterating those in charge in Iran. All right, Brando Republic now. A single protester is outside of Trump Tower in New York City protesting the U.S. and Israel strike on Iran. It's a joke and kind of sad. Trump R-wording children, typical leftist. Bombing your home to distract us from
First of all,
I don't like the Iranian government. I think that they do horrible.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of that on the X platform. People saying that Trump attacking Iran is to distract from Epstein, and Trump doing this to distract from Epstein. Like literally anything that Trump is going to do from this day forward is just a distraction from Epstein, as if like the whole world has to stand still for years on end while we just drone over the Epstein files endlessly forever.
Things to their people, but it is not our place to go around the entire world and decide what governments are legitimate and what are not. I think we have our own problems here at home. I think we need to clean our own house before we go around trying to pick the splinter out of other people's eyes. And I think this is all a distraction. He thinks that he starts bombing Iran, the media falls into line. He thinks that there'll be a rally around the flag effect, and he thinks that this is going to solve all of his problems. And if Americans have to die, if he has to bomb who knows how many thousands or tens of thousands of innocent Iranians, if he has to mire us in another quagmire, he doesn't care. He's the most...
It's very narrow-minded to just assume it's all about Epstein, at least in my opinion.
Ever sat in the White House.
I mean, does he realize that the thousands of times that Trump was mentioned in the Epstein files was after he announced that he was running for president? And that it was mostly Epstein himself who mentioned Donald Trump in his emails. That's why he was named in the Epstein files so many times. Most of which was between 2019 and 2020, which just so happened to be when he was re-running for president. Quite a coincidence. All right, Congressman Randy Fine, our goal is for Iran to end up with a leader who says friend to America, not death to America. I believe the Iranian people have a deep desire for Western values and freedom. Well, yeah, they used to.
Thanks for having me. Look, our goal is that we end up with a leader that
I'm sure they never lost those,
America, not death to America.
The values that they want back.
Trust the Iranian people, who I believe in their DNA have a desire for Western values and freedom, to bring that person to the fore. I know that a lot of work was done in advance before this operation happened to figure out who might rise to the forefront and who might become those new leaders. And so we're not going into this blind. I think President Trump needs to continue to create the framework where that can happen by continuing to take out these military sites and making clear if the kinds of slaughter that happened a couple of weeks ago happen now, that there will be hell to pay.
And when it comes to that slaughter.
Okay. And we've got from Speaker Mike Johnson, first Democrats opened our borders on purpose. Then Democrats let tens of millions of illegal aliens into the country, including at least 700 Iranian nationals, despite terrorism concerns. Now Democrats refuse to fund the Department of Homeland Security, putting our country at heightened risk in the midst of mounting threats. Democrats need to do their job and reopen DHS. This is not a game. And a Fox News headline, over 700 Iranian nationals released into the U.S. during Biden administration despite terrorism concerns. Trump's decisive action against Iran raises alarm about security risks following Biden's release of 729 special interest aliens. Wow. Okay. And we'll rock and roll to the next from Eric Daugherty. Just in, White House releases epic photos of President Trump, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Kane, as Operation Epic Fury strikes kicked off against Iran. Dream team in action. Nobody else I'd want directing the toppling of the regime. And just a couple of images when the strikes were initially happening. I'm assuming this was in the middle of the night because he gave his statement at about 3:30 in the morning, and the initial attacks were estimated to be around 1:30 in the morning on Saturday, Eastern time. And breaking number one, Americans in the Middle East region who need consular assistance can call 24/7 at 1-202-501-4444 from overseas, or 1-888-407-4747 from the U.S. and Canada. Steps to take for Americans in the Middle East. Enroll in STEP, which is step.state.gov, to receive the latest updates from the nearest U.S. embassy. And then follow us at TravelGov on the X platform on social media. I'm assuming that's probably going to be wherever else, Instagram and what have you, or the WhatsApp channel, U.S. Department of State security updates for U.S. citizens, or you can call the numbers that were already provided to request emergency assistance. And from Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, at the direction of the president. Okay, so there's a few things that happened today that was outside the Iranian conflict, and that's where we're going to get into here. Just a few things that happened before I wrap up. At the direction of the president, the U.S. Treasury is terminating all use of Anthropic products, including the use of its Claude platform within our department. The American people deserve confidence that every tool in government serves the public interest, and under President Trump, no private company will ever dictate the terms of our national security. So I don't know a whole lot about the Anthropic thing. It's some AI company that contracted with the federal government, and they had implemented tools in their AI software, their algorithms, or what have you, that would essentially give Anthropic unlimited access into the Pentagon, and essentially having a lot more power than they were deemed to have. And the Pentagon instructed them to remove those tools or what have you, and I guess they essentially refused to do so. So they are now terminating their services for the government. And this is from President Trump's Truth Social. The United States of America will never allow a radical left woke company to dictate how our great military fights and wins wars. That decision belongs to your commander-in-chief and the tremendous leaders I appoint to run our military. The left-wing nutjobs at Anthropic have made a disastrous mistake trying to strong-arm the Department of War and force them to obey their terms of service instead of our Constitution. Their selfishness is putting American lives at risk, our troops in danger, and our national security in jeopardy. See, dude, this is why it's concerning, to say the least, when the federal government is trying to implement AI systems throughout the government and our military, and essentially through the entirety of the federal government, because most of these AI systems are developed in Silicon Valley. A lot of them are left-leaning individuals, if not full-on progressives, that are developing all this shit. Of course, they're going to throw their bias into it. Therefore, I am directing every federal agency in the United States government to immediately cease all use of Anthropic's technology. We don't need it. We don't want it. And will not do business with them again. There will be a 6-month phase-out period for agencies like the Department of War who are using Anthropic's products at various levels. Anthropic better get their act together and be helpful during this phase-out period, or I will use the full power of the presidency to make them comply, with major civil and criminal consequences to follow. We will decide the fate of our country, not some out-of-control radical left AI company run by people who have no idea what the real world is all about. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Make America great again. And that came out back on February 27th. That was a few days ago. And the Treasury Secretary is just reiterating that the U.S. Treasury has terminated the use of Anthropic products, so they're not getting paid by the federal government anymore. And from Rapid Response 47 new polls, 71% of Americans, including 69% of independents and 50% of Democrats, support the Save America Act. And which poll is this from? This is from Harvard Capps Harris poll. So it depends on which poll that you're looking at. I think that the most widely accepted one was that 71% of Democrats are in support of voter ID of some form or another. I don't think that necessarily states that they support the whole the new requirements that the Save America Act would implement, which would be to require either a passport or your birth certificate. Not both like what the Democrats are saying. It's either one or the other. And if you have a passport, you don't have to worry about going through the easy process of obtaining your birth certificate. And it is an easy process for like 45 of the states. Like, you can go to one single website which handles birth certificates for most of the country. And it's not very difficult. I already showed that. I think it was on Friday's Swamp episode. I went through all the steps to obtain your birth certificate. But yeah, so there's strong support for the Save America Act. And when confronted with a trade-off, voters prioritize stopping fraud over access concerns. So do you support or oppose the proposed Save America Act that would require proof of citizenship or register to vote, require voter ID, require states to remove non-citizens from their voting rolls, require states to share unredacted voting rolls with the Department of Homeland Security? 71% support and 29% oppose, 50% support and 50 oppose for the Democrats. GOP, 91% support, 9% oppose, and independent, 69% oppose, 31% support, and then 31% oppose. So it's easy to see there. But which of the following is more important? That we do everything possible to stop voter fraud and illegal immigrants from voting, or that eligible citizens aren't denied the ability to vote? Looks like 54% won out to stop voter fraud and illegal immigrants from voting. And let's go to the next. Wide Awake Media. UN officials have warned that the United Nations faces total financial collapse as a result of non-payment of dues by member states. We face a real danger of running out of money. I think a lot of people would be okay with that.
The Secretary General has, as you know, repeatedly made clear the problem both of non-payment of dues by member states and the related problem of the UN being forced to repay member states for budget expenses that it does not budget money that it does not spend.
Oh yeah.
And
so you owe countries money.
Those two factors have put us
on
an unsustainable trajectory. Although more than 150 member states paid their dues last year, we ended 2025 with a record $1.56 billion in outstanding dues, which is more than double that of the previous year.
Well, what the hell are you spending all this money on anyway?
Either
salaries
come in,
probably salaries,
or we're not compelled to spend to return the monies that we are not able to spend because we didn't receive the budget. Unless one of those two things happen, we face a real danger of running out of money.
Well, it's my understanding is that a lot of people who work for the UN, and apparently in numbers in the thousands, they all live in New York City, and they get paid six-figure salaries, including like support staff, and supposedly those salaries are absolutely absurd. And I don't know if their housing is paid for by the UN. That wouldn't surprise me either. But apparently they're just blowing money like crazy on salaries and like cost of living expenses and all that nonsense because they're in New York City. Anyway, so Gary Cardone, I'm not going to play the same thing. It's the same video. But from Gary Cardone, he says UN should be abandoned, shut down, and shuttered. And then from Shriv Shatas, whatever, he said this week, just keeps getting better. So just a couple of points of support for the UN running out of money. So Ambassador Mike Waltz says, welcome the First Lady, Melania Trump, to the Security Council today. As we begin our presidency of the UNSC, the UN Security Council, we are projecting American leadership on the world stage. And there's an image there of our ambassador to the UN and the First Lady, Melania Trump. In the office of the First Lady today at 3 p.m. Eastern, First Lady Melania Trump to preside over the UN Security Council, calling for peace through education. First Lady Melania Trump is said to make history at the United Nations, taking the gavel as the United States assumes the Security Council presidency to emphasize education's role in advancing tolerance and world peace. Mrs. Trump's leadership will mark the first time a sitting U.S. First Lady presides over the Security Council as members consider education, technology, peace, and security. And the First Lady arrives at the UN headquarters in New York City, where she will preside over a United Nations Security Council meeting. Well, the faces seem friendly. Not sure how it goes behind closed doors. Yeah, but she's there to push her agenda for education for children around the world, including AI, education on AI, because their position, well, the government's position, actually a lot of people's position, is that AI is the future. So it's very important that children learn the values, the positive values of AI, and how to use it for good. So there you go, just doing a photo op and everything. I didn't come across any of the hearing or the meeting or anything like that with regard to the UN. Maybe that's on the First Lady's profile, the Office of the First Lady. Maybe they might have some. Oh, yeah. Here we go. So peace does not need to be fragile. Enduring peace will be achieved when knowledge and understanding are fully valued within all societies. The value placed on education by a nation's leaders shapes the core of their country's belief systems. So I'm getting short on time. I'm almost hitting my 2-hour mark, but I'll play like the first minute, but I'll repost this from my profile. The link is down below if you want to check it out.
Peace does not need to be fragile. Enduring peace will be achieved when knowledge and understanding are fully valued within all societies. The value placed on education by nations' leaders shape the core of their country's belief system. A nation that makes learning sacred protects its books, its language, its science, and its mathematics. It protects its future. This leads to something powerful, to greater understanding, moral reasoning, and tolerance of others. Peace. Children raised in a culture rooted in intelligence develop confidence, innovate, build, compete, and maintain a deep value system. Their knowledge fosters empathy for others, transcending geography, religion, race, gender, and even local norms. They become caring people. But children raised in culture rooted in ignorance are surrounded by disorder and sometimes even conflict. These societies are filled with rigid thinkers who embrace prejudice and shun human dignity. When a nation restricts thought, it restricts its own future. Education is widely recognized as a fundamental human right, and yet today, so many children and young adults are banned from attending secondary schools and universities. The cost is not abstract. Imagine the loss of potential to our collective humanity, new medical breakthroughs, advancement in food security, groundbreaking technologies, all gone. A society that excludes vast segments of its population can realize only a fraction of its potential.
Okay, well, I'll just cut it there. And it goes on for 7.5 minutes. Obviously, I wasn't prepared for that, or it would have been in the list. But there's other segments, and looks like the entirety of her speech may be... Oh, no, okay, so this is just her statement that she read, I'm assuming. Yeah, so she addresses the UN Security Council, championing peace through education. So yeah, what she's reading, you could read it all here for yourself. And let's rock and roll to the rest that I've got, which will next one will be Scott Turner with Housing and Urban Development. Using a Clinton-era loophole, illegal aliens were permitted to self-declare their eligibility for taxpayer-funded housing. By closing this loophole, HUD will be able to protect taxpayer-funded housing for eligible American families in need. And he did put the link down here. I remembered that. And we'll have a look at this. Illegal immigration could lose public housing under Trump HUD plan to end Clinton-era loophole. And let's roll down and have a look at this. All right, so a proposed Department of Housing and Urban Development rule would crack down on illegal immigrants or unqualified people living in public housing, closing a loophole established amid major departmental reforms under President Bill Clinton in 1996. Current HUD rules allow mixed-status households to use public housing under what is called the Do Not Contend provision, in which a person living among a public housing family can declare they do not contend their HUD eligibility under their immigration status, and the family instead receives prorated housing assistance. The HUD ineligible family member or members may remain in public housing so long as the family accepts their diminished subsidies, according to reports. The new HUD rule proposed this week under Secretary Scott Turner would eliminate the option for residents to say they do not contend and instead require every member to verify citizenship or prove eligible non-citizen status to continue receiving housing assistance. The proposed rule would not categorically prohibit non-citizens from public housing, but those remaining would have to prove they are eligible for taxpayer-funded assistance. Look, man, I don't think that anybody who's not an American citizen should be getting welfare benefits or anything of the sort. I don't believe that they should. I think this should only be reserved for American citizens. It's just my opinion. While illegal immigrants would be barred, green card holders are fully eligible under federal housing law. Why, man? They're not even American citizens. If they need that much assistance, go home. You got to go back where you came from if you can't handle living here, man. People admitted to the U.S. under official refugee or asylee status also remain eligible, as well as individuals whose DHS order of removal is being legally withheld due to threat of personal harm in their home country. Look, that I get it. That could be kind of murky. That kind of gets a little cloudy with regard to refugees, especially refugees who may have helped U.S. forces in conflict countries. You know, like if they come here with nothing, but they provided assistance to us in certain difficult times. I get that. Or people, like if they're economic refugees, I don't think that's good enough. If they're fleeing religious persecution, for us to give them government assistance, I'm not even really so sure about that. I mean, we've got churches, we've got community programs and things of that sort. I don't know. I don't know. What do I know? I don't know everything. Cuban immigrants, I'm assuming, migrants who have fled the communist dictatorship 90 miles off Key West have also historically been considered eligible, as have certain foreign domestic violence or trafficking victims. Turner's proposal, however, would guarantee that all people living in HUD-funded housing are eligible under statute. The long-standing HUD Act of 1980, which the Clinton-era reforms adjusted, already prohibits HUD from providing financial assistance to ineligible non-citizens, and Turner's reforms would make the prorated assistance option temporary instead of indefinite, pending eligibility verification. Under President Trump's leadership, the days of illegal aliens, ineligibles, and fraudsters gaming the system and riding the coattails of American taxpayers are over, said Turner, a former Washington Redskins cornerback. HUD's proposal rule will guarantee that all residents in HUD-funded housing are eligible tenants. We have zero tolerance for pushing aside hardworking U.S. citizens while enabling others to exploit decades-old loopholes. Turner wrote in a Washington Post op-ed that previous administrations turned a blind eye to enforcing these types of HUD laws and policies. Liberal officials at both the federal and state level purposefully blurred and weakened the law by allowing some applicants for HUD assistance to simply sign a declaration of citizenship without requiring any documentation or proof, he said in one example. Critics of the charge, however, said HUD's efforts are going to lead to families being booted from public housing. Our country can ensure that every one of us, no matter where we come from or what language we speak, has a safe home. Now, National Housing Law Project Executive Director Seamus Roller told the AP, Trump is trying to evict immigrant families, citizen and non-citizen, from HUD housing. Roller's colleague Sonia Acosta told the Wire service that the new policy would wrongly force an agonizing choice between losing the assistance that helps families pay rent every month or separating their family. Of course, they always got to bring up the whole separating families. No, you could just stick with your family. I mean, that would be the individual's choice. That would be the family's choice. If y'all are going to separate, I mean, that's not up to the system. That's up to you. If you want to separate, you separate. Unless somebody in your family commits a crime, then they'll be separated from you because they have to go to jail. I mean, that's one example. Okay, so let's go back and see what else we got. Okay, so this is the last thing I got from NASA. What's up for March? The moon will appear red during a total lunar eclipse on March the 3rd. And it varies depending on where you are, what time zone you're in. Where I live in the St. Petersburg, Florida area, and it's at 6:33 a.m. sharp. When the moon will be in its totality. We're going to have a total lunar eclipse. At least where I live, this is the last time it's going to happen until June of 2029. So it's going to be a few years. I don't think I'm going to catch it because where I live, the moon is going to be it's going to be in the process of setting. So, I mean, it's not a long trip. It's like a couple miles to the beach from where I live. I mean, I could do it, but it's 6:30 in the morning. Tomorrow's a work day. I'm just not sure if I'm really up for it. I did catch the total eclipse that happened last spring. I think it was last spring. It was like last April or something. It was like 3:30 in the morning. I did see that. So, that wasn't all that long ago. So I got to catch the last one. So I might just ride this one out or sit this one out. But it's happening. So depending on where you are in the country, especially if you're over on the West Coast or in the middle of the country, then you'll have a much better shot of seeing it. But if you're over on the East Coast, I don't think you're going to be able to see it. But you will be able to see the partial. If you get up at like 5:30 in the morning, you'll be able to see the eclipse starting with the eclipse, the lunar eclipse, but you probably won't be able to see the entirety of it. But anyway, I'm going to stop rambling.
A total lunar eclipse blood moon takes center stage. Venus and Saturn cozy up for a conjunction, and we celebrate the vernal equinox. That's what's up this March. Is it Mars or is it the moon? On March 3rd, a total lunar eclipse will turn the moon bright red. During a lunar eclipse, which can only happen during a full moon, Earth passes between the sun and the moon, casting a shadow on the lunar surface. During a partial lunar eclipse, the moon moves only partially into the dark shadow or umbra cast by Earth. But during a full lunar eclipse, the sun, Earth, and moon are exactly aligned, leaving the moon completely enveloped in Earth's shadow. When this happens, the moon actually turns blood red. While you might imagine a full lunar eclipse would leave the moon completely dark, Earth's atmosphere scatters the light, illuminating the moon in this orange-reddish hue. So look up and bask in the red glow of our lunar companion. This full lunar eclipse will be visible from Eastern Asia and Australia in the evening, from the Pacific at night, and from most of North and Central America as well as Western South America in the early morning. On March 8th, Venus and Saturn will cozy up for a conjunction in the evening sky. The pair will be about 1 degree apart, which is roughly the width of a single finger if you hold it at arm's length. A conjunction happens when two objects in the night sky appear close together, even if they're far apart in space. In reality, Venus and Saturn are nearly 1 billion miles apart. But to see the pair get close in the sky from our perspective, look close to the horizon in the western sky just after sunset. On March 20th, we ring in the vernal equinox, marking a transition into the next season. While this is colloquially known as the first day of spring in the northern hemisphere and the first day of autumn in the southern hemisphere, astronomically, this equinox occurs when the sun crosses above Earth's equator while traveling from south to north. On this day, northern and southern hemispheres experience roughly equal amounts of sunlight, and day and night are also about equal, each lasting almost exactly 12 hours. So enjoy the start of a new season with a day of perfectly balanced sunlight. Here are the phases of the moon for March. You can stay up to date on all of NASA's missions exploring the solar system and beyond at science.nasa.gov. I'm Chelsea Goad from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and that's what's up for this month.
Well, there you have it. That's a good way to finish off the episode with another NASA video. So yeah, if you have a chance, get up early in the morning and check out the eclipse. And it's going to be out bright and early. Actually, not even bright and early. It's going to be before dawn breaks. So you set your alarm clock and get out there and watch the last total lunar eclipse that I think the United States is going to see for the next few years. So anyway, if you enjoyed tonight's episode, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. And I'll be back tomorrow night as we explore the swamp Monday through Friday and everyone in it, the politicians, bureaucrats, agencies, the administration. I also post daily on X, which is where you can peek at the content for the next episode. And don't forget, video clips from tonight will begin dropping on the channel tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern. Thank you very much for watching. Always remember to stay positive. God bless the troops and God bless America.